Captured by Women is brought to you by Yum Vita, a delicious way to grow.
Hello, good afternoon, and you're warmly welcome to another exciting edition of Captured by Women. Well, we're excited to be in your homes and in your TVs this afternoon to discuss a number of issues, one with an international twist and a few others that we'll look at locally. So what's on our plate today? We will discuss the lessons that we as Ghanaians can learn from the Thai cave rescue on Spain. And then on Big Bang, we'll discuss the issue of women and gender representation as well as tribal representation, looking at the number of executives that were elected during the NPP Congress. And then on Big Bang 2, we'll talk about the property tax. We know that it's going to be re-energized sometime soon, so we'll have a conversation about that. And then on Career Woman, we will host an exceptional woman who has done a great job internationally, and she'll be right here in the studios with us to discuss a few issues about her work. Then on Lifestyle, we have an interesting one. Have you heard about lip bleaching? You haven't? Well, stay tuned. It promises to be an exciting session. Please stay with us. Remember, the show is brought to you by Yum Vita, and I host the show with Nanama. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
And so, some 2 weeks back, the world was rocked with the fact that some Thai boys had been locked up in a cave, and there was a rescue team sent to search for them. Unfortunately, one life was lost, but good enough, all the boys and their coach came out unscathed. And interestingly, the whole world was glued to their seats to follow the progress of this story. Let's watch what we put together for you as excerpts of what happened down there in the cave.
They were all members of a football squad who'd entered the caves after a Saturday practice with their coach. British cave experts have started their search today, but even if they do manage to find a way in here, there's no way of knowing whether this is where the boys and their coach are trapped.
How many of you? 13? Yes. Brilliant. You have been here 10 days.
Others continue to look for a safer exit above. The dangers were enormous. A former Thai Navy SEAL diver died after running out of oxygen 4 days ago. Then on Sunday, the first success with the rescue of 4 boys.
Was a disaster narrowly averted. Tonight, all 12 young soccer players and their coach are free. They're safe. The whole world watching and waiting after they were first discovered there. Then, of course, that international crew of divers and engineers plotting to get them out. The last 4 boys and their coach were rescued today. And the 4 Thai Navy SEALs who had stayed with them all that time after first discovering them in the cave, giving a thumbs up.
After their 17-day underground ordeal, all 12 boys and their coach saw daylight for the first time. From fear to cautious optimism, then to relief and celebration.
All of them are now under medical supervision for a week in this hospital here in Chiang Rai. 2 of the children have contracted lung infection and they are receiving medication while laboratory tests done on everybody is expected to last for several days.
Breaking news, these are the first images of the Thai soccer team after rescuers pulled them from a cave. You're seeing these pictures from inside the hospital sharing this video. Take a good look at this. Doctors say all 12 boys who were rescued are now healthy.
The fact that they were brought out of this cave, the fact that it took so long to do, the fact that the conditions were so treacherous, which we can now see for ourselves based on some of the video we've seen. You know, we've been saying for days, John, how improbable this was, how dangerous it was, but when you see those images, at least for me, it really brought it home to say, unbelievable that we are in this spot, and kudos to the expertise and the hard work of the divers and the rescuers who risked their own lives. We can't say that enough. They risked their own lives to go in there and get these kids out. They did a remarkable job, and the images that we've seen today just back that up.
Indeed, that was remarkable. Kudos to the team, and of course condolences to the family that lost their husband or brother or father in that unfortunate incident. But Rosamond, interestingly, I'd like us to look at it from the perspective of the unity amongst you know, the Thai communities and the families that realized their sons were missing, and the rapidity with which people were trying to find them. Can the same be said in Ghana?
Amma, that's a very gargantuan question, if I can so say. I mean, you know how we've had similar, not of this magnitude, similar issues in Ghana. People go missing. We have national tragedies. And for me, the very first thing that we normally see is, yes, we get some form of response, but as to whether it's rapid and it's urgent is the issue. Secondly, this trend about the spiritual,
an act of God.
I know, spiritual prominence that certain pastors, you know, I mean, use these opportunities for. It's really ridiculous. If this had happened in Ghana, believe me, there would have been prophecies about how somebody had seen something. And we're not saying prophecies are bad, but I feel that we have some lessons to learn from here. One, as you said, is the unity. Two is the professionalism and the determination. It's just awesome. It's just awesome.
You know, interestingly, when they described the whole passage and how narrow, even the science behind it, I was wondering. So in Ghana, where someone gets lost and in a big place, I mean, it's very obvious, even that we can't find. How much more if you were trapped underground and you had to be searched, you know, and how they were able to determine, let's say in this particular area there's 5 meters or 5 feet, and so it would be difficult to pass. And look at how they caged the children and they were able to supply oxygen. You know, we haven't even gotten to that point. If someone drowned and we're looking for them in the sea, would we have professional divers? Would we have swimmers, or we'll just have to rely on
some form
what
of,
we know?
I know, or some form of, you know, structured emergency system. You know, I'm sure we have something in place, but as to how elaborate it is the issue. And the thing is that we need to start having these conversations as a nation. Nobody is saying we are waiting for such tragedies to occur, but they do occur, and we have to be prepared. And I hope that all the authorities, I mean, this was an international event that caught everybody's attention. So we've picked our lessons on how we can also better our emergency system, you know, and also partner. You can see that partnership worked, you know, from various authorities, various countries coming into. Partnership is key. So we should develop our partnership, you know, and not have an ad hoc one in place, but have a structured one in case something of this scale happens. Then quickly, you know, we have a rescue team in place to save lives. You know,
but you know, when you talk about the partnership, we're looking at the inter-collaborations between agencies, and even in our local agencies we don't have it. So when you have, you know, an issue of this magnitude and you're inviting people, I think you're just bringing them into chaos, because amongst yourselves you don't even know where to start from. So how do they come and help? So I'm really looking at Ghana taking a cue from this.
Definitely, we should.
We don't pray for, you know, any event of this magnitude, but even the small ones that happen. I was so happy with the international efforts. The fact that they realized maybe we can't do it all by ourselves. Can we look beyond us and see if we can get more experience or more information on how to go about this? Because it hasn't even happened before. This was a first of such an incident. And so it doesn't matter to say, okay, we have some experience, but maybe it's not adequate. Let's seek help. And they did, and they got these boys rescued.
It was mission impossible.
Healthy. I mean, apart from the two who are having pneumonia, but I'm sure that will clear. Having gone through all these challenges, I think they'll certainly surmount that.
But we thank God everything. I mean, everybody's okay now, and they're back, and we're learning. I hope we pick a few lessons out of this.
We certainly do think we should pick a lesson from this, at least with diligence and professionalism and that unity of at least sharing information. When you hear that someone is missing, at least try your best to spread the information so we can look for that missing person. We don't want anything of this magnitude to happen to Ghana, but kudos to the teams out there, and our condolences to the family that lost that Navy SEAL. We'll take a break. We'll be back with more here on Captured by Women.
Thanks for staying with us. So the show continues with Big Bang 1, and we're discussing the ICU's call or support for the reintroduction or the need to re-energize the collection of property taxes in Ghana. We have invited the General Secretary in the person of Mr. Solomon Kote to discuss the issue further. Sir, you're welcome to Captured by Women.
Thank you.
I hope you're doing well.
Well, by God's grace, you're fine.
All right. So, you've made a call for us to, some will say reintroduce, others will say we need to re-energize the efforts around collecting property taxes. What occasioned this call by the ICU?
Thank you. We've realized that this is one government that has given huge promises. And each of these promises have to do with getting good revenue to be able to deliver. Now, we only want to draw government attention that those of us already in the tax bracket should be spared a bit, because we have been talking about going beyond the boundaries of those who are within the net and then looking at new areas or areas that exist by law, but the law itself has gone mute and therefore nothing is actually happening there. And one of those areas that came readily on mind is the property rate, because that is an area where in this country, apart from those staying in the residential areas who are actually paying year by year, those outside those enclaves are virtually paying nothing. And if you look at how Accra has grown in this short time, not even Accra alone, Kumasi and the rest, we think if government will resource these MDCs, the metropolitan assemblies, municipal assemblies, they are enclosed with that power to be able to get those resources. Other than that, this government, we know they will come to me and you on a PAYE, they will come back to us on petroleum, they will come back to us and all that, because the signs are showing that they really need money. Okay, so for us not to sit and say governance can never be run without revenue, we are trying to say this is our humble suggestion. If they could look at that area and then spare us a bit, because this is a point where they are even considering coming to us again on national insurance, health, levies again. But these are areas that they will not sit down to look at it happening. So to proffer an alternative, we are saying this one area that per the law is there already, not that they are going to enact a new law. Because Art 462 of the Local Government Act is there for them to actually trigger it and let it run.
Mr. Kote, I'm finding it difficult to get exactly where ICU stands, because in one breath you're asking that the property rates be reintroduced because it will, bring in revenue for the government, and in another breath you're saying they will come back to us, so you're asking them to, as it were, withdraw those people who are paying currently these taxes. But you do realize that the very people who are paying the taxes are the people who own homes. Most of the people in Ghana, as it stands, with a 29 million population and yet a 1.7 million deficit in housing, we stand to, be only the only people who can't even pay the rent, the property tax. So where exactly is ICU asking for? Is it that the people who are working will not pay property tax and yet pay other taxes, or only those who have houses will pay the tax? I need to get that clarity.
The incidence, on the tax dwells solely and squarely on the consumer. Right. That is no argument about that. What we are saying is that so long as government remains with those of us in the tax net and don't look elsewhere, we'll continue to pay more. So in my discourse with you here, I've said that we have expanded, we have grown. Many have acquired more properties. Right. They've acquired so many other things that are supposed to be taxable. Because if they don't also spread the tax net and still keeping it where it is, then it is me and you who carry the major burden. So our proposal or expatiation on the matter is that, look, government, we know the law is there. Right. It's for political expedience, they will not go and tax the people in the village, because if you look at that law, people even in hamlets are supposed to pay property rate. It's a property. Just that the rate differentiates. The quality of the property, the environment where you stay attracts a different rate that is applicable. But we have many more who are not paying anything at all. Right. Okay, so we are saying that if they should spread the net to those areas, they'll be raking in more money. Because the kind of desperation we are seeing, they've given a signal. We cannot increase salaries the way they are going. They are telling us that government revenue, 51% of it is being used to pay only salaries. Meanwhile, there are many other expenditures of government. So our call in this direction is not to say that in one breath, ICU want to blow hot and cold. No. What we are saying is that if you look at GRA, Ghana Revenue Authority, quickly, they go around the shops that are around all the time, locking them out, demanding here and there. While there are other nationals, who are doing good business. And the area of property now, the craze of acquiring property is something else in this country. Okay, if you look at Association of Land Guards, it has never existed over 2 decades. Now it is there, it is real. So if even people are paying property rates to things like parcels of land, okay, it will resolve a lot of disputes and challenges, and government will also be making the needed money that they need to actually run the country. We believe there's a lot more there.
Okay, Mr. Kote, I mean, we've had this law on our books for some time now, and as you know, with most of our laws, it's the problem is with the implementation. So I think that shouldn't the call, yes, the call is genuine, and I think that, as you've explained, Ed, I mean, it's something that we should push for. But it all comes down to the resourcing, as you said, of the agencies, the MMDAs, the agencies at the local level who are supposed to go and actually intensify collection. So shouldn't your call go with a commensurate effort, urging government to resource these agencies, whether it has to do with infrastructure, whether it has to do with skilled staff, because that is the crux of the matter, isn't it? In our foresight, we think the data that we don't have as economy is also costing us, because in any given enclave, we should be able to tell how many properties are here, who owns what, and what are they. We don't just have them on our books. I'm saying in a new area, I've paid property rate only once, okay? But I've been there 7 years now, only once. And in that once, you recall, I made the same clarion call some years back, okay? And then they decided to locate me alone. The rest of my colleagues in the community, none of them were made to pay. And I paid. Following year, I went to pay. They say my name is not on their data. Exactly.
Okay, so I left a note and I said, if you find my name on your data, then please bring it to me and I'll pay. So I believe strongly from our union viewpoint that the burden on workers should be looked at it carefully. Even though my sister said these same workers, they own these properties, I beg to differ. The kind of properties that are owned in this country cannot be owned by ordinary people like us. I mean, you go through the airport residential area, okay, go through the airport hills, see those type of buildings over there, okay, and property rate is also graduated, and we believe strongly that is an area that government can rake in a lot and then give us.
But we certainly do agree. I mean, I do agree with that. But again, Mr. Kote, you also, you know, when you talk, you're saying you don't want the same person, as it were, to be overburdened with paying taxes. But the person who owns residential property in, say, airport is working hard for himself. And he may have not only one, but even 5. And each of these is going to be taxed. Again, the other worker who is earning a pittance still has something he lives in and calls a property. That is also going to be taxed. But don't you think that in doing same, in allocating a particular property tax rate to this worker is going to prevent him from actually putting up a house, which should be a reasonable size, should have should have certain standard qualities? Because if I increase the space, you are going to increase the amount you're going to ask me to pay, and then I'll put up a shack. It comes up with all the sanitation issues that we have, and then there's a ripple effect. So really, do you think this call is going to solve the issue?
Well, it's an argument that we cannot run away from, but life is such that the more you progress, the higher you go, the more you have things changing around you. So those who could own 3, 4, 5, maybe they put it on commercial use and they're making good revenue out of it. So they will be able to afford, because our tax system is so progressive. The more you earn, the more you pay. So if you can earn more, you put up good house. If you earn less, you put out those small houses you are talking about. So in that graduation form, I don't think anybody is being restrained from expressing what your income can actually do for you. This is what ICU is looking at.
But per your calculations, how many houses are there? And talking about the revenue, because you're asking government to look at it, so you should have put some figures to it. What do you think government will be getting from putting up this property?
Do you have any analysis? Because it seems to be coming from a very solid
scientific
ground.
Yes.
What I'm saying is this: like you're walking in Accra today, just go past an area within a week. Before you go there again, you'll be surprised as if the buildings are
springing up.
Okay, springing up as if there are trees that are growing. Now, I have indicated here that we have a major data problem as a country. So that if even you go to AMA and you say, look, within Odododio constituency, how many houses do we have there? How many of them are paying property rates? Okay, my guess in these figures is just an approximation, but if you could get where I'm calling for, okay, you could see how clustered the houses are over there. So if one can call about 1,000 houses within that enclave alone, and each house is supposed to pay, looking at the type of structure that is there, they are paying 0.0003 percent of the value of the property. I believe this particular area is not working because they will need people from land valuation to actually value the properties. Okay, and the resources my sister mentioned, if also not there, then we are losing money in the name of resources we don't have and what have you. But this is a point we have reached in this economy, especially of this government, who have given us so many promises. Okay, it cannot be delivered on sympathies. It can only be delivered on revenue, and they need a genuine revenue to get it go. So our call in this direction is to help either the Minister of Finance, okay, to tax their people very well, come down to their structures and let people go and do census.
Right.
Okay. When you were inviting me, should you have given me a hint that is what I wanted to discuss? At least I will have called and look for one or two, and then maybe make a very pragmatic presentation of a small enclave and find out, even if everybody is paying 50 Ghana or 20 Ghana, okay, and multiply by those number of houses, you see what government will be getting. But I suspect strongly that there are a lot of these revenues that are being collected, which is not finding its way to government.
Right.
Okay, because sometimes they come to you with the receipt, you look at the person holding the receipt book, and they want to write to you, they put a card behind the original, okay, they write, they get it on, the receipt numbering, whether it's an original receipt. You know, recently in this country, even toll booths, the people sitting in have got their own ticket. Even those who take the market toll, okay, they have their own ticket, and then that of the market, they'll be arrested once in a while, and then it dies off, we don't hear anything. So we are saying that government, we, the citizens, by nature of our former jobs, that you can easily reach us by your long stretch arm, take note. Don't be coming to us too much. Because if you look at what we pay for social security and what we pay for our taxes are bigger than even our social security. So looking for the fact also that the taxes we pay, we are not getting the benefit of the amenities. Okay, we are not getting the routes right. Our stadiums are nothing to write home about. We don't even have recreational centers in our communities where we stay. These are supposed to be things to be constructed by our taxes. We are not seeing them. Okay, when we were growing up, okay, you get to the Tema Station area, you find nice trees with sitting chairs of this nature. Whether we are walking, you are tired, you go up. All those things are gone. So where are our taxes actually going? Are they all going to paying of the salaries of workers? And when you ask government, can we see the breakdown of the 51%? Which one comes from the presidency? Which one comes from the whatever? It never comes out.
We need to wrap up the segment. Thank you so much for coming. Naturally, it's a very good call by the ICU, but it also comes with a lot of efforts that needs to be put into the entire implementation process to ensure that we get positive results for the efforts that will be put in. So the more conversation will go on about this. The show continues. Please don't go away.
On Big Bang 2, we're discussing the aftermath of the MPP conference. Only 2 women were chosen out of 10 executive positions. We're asking the representation of women in political parties. And also, Nana Kumia, the CEO of STC currently, did make some comments concerning the tribes that are chosen to vie for certain positions. He thinks that the Akan tribe is winning too often when they stand for the elections. And he's asking, could we throw the baton to other tribes? Let's see what they are talking about when it comes to MPP. I think it's not only MPP, but this thing cuts across board where women are always in the background. They're the cheerleaders, they are the organizers. But when it comes to the actual table of delegation and getting people who would speak up for women or channel, champion the cause, we don't seem to get a seat.
Yeah.
What exactly is going on?
It's quite frustrating and a bit disappointing. Especially as we all know that not only the MPP, as you said, there's been so much talk, so much discussions about the need to give women the opportunity, to take leadership positions. I think that it's a complicated set of issues. I mean, the issue of monetization is key.
It is.
Our electoral processes, is driven by money. And we saw a display of that during the MPP Congress.
Right.
So I think, one, it's an issue about giving opportunities for women. And it's not only about women. It's also about the tribal issue that we talked about. Yeah. And as you also hinted, Nana Kumia said that the party, needs to give more opportunities to women and to other represented, ethnic groups to be in the national leadership. So I think we have to go beyond the talk. We have to go beyond the rhetoric that is given when it comes to women's issues, equality in gender and tribal, and actually put structures in place, or something has to be done about it.
For MPP in particular, maybe we'll center more on them because they seem to have a lot of people who champion women activities and they, talk about women activism and all that. So you would be eager to see that more women will be at the forefront of issues when it comes to this parliament or this government. But we don't see that, especially in the conference. That's why I was disappointed, because very few women went for the positions, and of course some of them, 2 of them won out of 10.
Out of 10.
And you're wondering, what voice do they have? Not that they can't, we want all of them to be women, but at least when it comes to certain issues, you need women to be able to understand better where another woman is coming from, to be able to appreciate what goes on. And when you don't have women giving you that platform, it's difficult. You may do things on your blind side and only later come to realize that maybe if we had a woman talking about this, it would have been better. We would have gotten even more support from the grassroots if women were there. So I'm looking at people spreading their tentacles, and of course the men will always say, well, it's a equal playground for everybody, come on board, let's go. They'll say it, but when it comes to actually playing it out, you don't see that effort, because these women, we talk about the monetization. If we thought about the women very well, where's that woman going to get all that money from? She's not out there just working for herself. She's working for family. She's got people she takes care of. She's got a home, and probably because she has certain morals, she wouldn't want her children to even copy. It will cripple her in wanting to just dole out some cash and all that, and women naturally will not do that, we know. But the men, it's easier. And so all these things sort of push women to the background, and then you stay there and you just keep your calm and say, well, maybe we'll keep fighting. But for how long would we fight for it?
How long we'll keep fighting? Amma, you're right. And the frustration is that we have a lot of women's advocacy groups in Ghana. I think that on occasions of these national political congresses or the processes leading up to it, we need to hear their voices more. We need to hear their advocacy efforts more, pushing for, even if it means reserving certain positions purely for women. I think that would be a practical step, in trying to bridge that gap and ensuring gender parity, at the national level. Otherwise, as you rightly said, we miss the women's perspectives when it comes to the discussions. It's only a male-dominated discussion, and at the end of the day, it benefits only a particular group. So I feel that, we've talked.
It's time for action.
It's time for action, Nana. It's time for action. And what I always say is, I don't know, but I wonder whether the NPP, the NDC, the other political groups actually have a structured mentoring program to groom women from the grassroots and prepare them, to take up the leadership positions at the national level. I don't know whether there's a deliberate plan like that. If there is none, then I think
they should start
immediately, with a sense of urgency in doing that, so that we can see a change, a positive change, in having more women at the top.
But also about the tribalism or ethnicity. Nana Komia mentions it, and oftentimes it's featured in MPP in particular, where everyone seems to think that MPP tends to favor Akan-speaking tribes more than, say, the Voltarians or the Northerners. I think it's genuine. I think they've given people the cause to think so. And so moving forward, maybe they should look at diversifying it, because they've done well when it comes to the presidency and the vice president to try and look for maybe a southern, if for lack of a better word, a southern president, then maybe a northern vice or something, some combination of the sort, and that has worked well for them. So they should look at the same when it comes to their other electoral positions, so that it can all go well for them.
Yeah, it's true. That Akan tag is not, I don't think it's only perception. We all see it. The numbers are there. So it will be good for the party to look more into that and to deliberately work at making it more diverse than it is.
Anyway, so we have been talking about the aftermath of the MPP conference and a matter of representation in terms of women and the ethnic tribes that feature there. We hope they take a cue from what we have discussed and improve upon the women representation, especially, and also the ethnicity representation. We'll take a break. We'll be back with more here on Captured by Women.
Welcome back from the break. Today, we're privileged to be hosting an exceptionally accomplished woman in the person of Dr. Michal Silla. She is a resource trainer for Israel's Agency for International Development and Cooperation, and her areas of expertise and achievement are simply phenomenal. Let me walk you through a couple of them. She has expertise in leadership and organizational development, in women's rights, empowerment, education, and gender mainstreaming. She's also done some great work in social and educational entrepreneurship and project management. Doc, if I can call you so.
That's fine.
You're welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So we basically want to find out, first of all, what has brought you to Ghana? And yes, let's start from there. So what has brought you to Ghana?
Well, what brings me to Ghana is, first of all, that I've been advising local organization for a year now, and they've kept telling me about Ghana, Ghanaian women. It's an organization in North Ghana. Okay. So I was really curious. And well, you know, I love working around the world. I love this cultural meeting and really understanding how other women live and what really bothers them and what are their challenges. I really like this kind of work, and well, you know, this is what brought me to Ghana.
Nice. So having encountered women from all over the country, I mean all over the world, and you talk about the cultural differences and the uniqueness, having come to Ghana, specifically concerning entrepreneurship, what do you think are some of the barriers and some of the challenges that Ghanaian women face that is pretty different from women on the other side?
So first of all, I met women that were really strong and determined to do something about themselves and about the future of Ghana, which is pretty amazing. And you know, many told me that the main obstacle is getting loans for businesses and for women's entrepreneurship. So I think it's something you should address as a society.
Right. But from what I hear you say, that doesn't seem to be the situation on the other side concerning funding. It seems it's more easily accessible than it is in Ghana here.
So in Israel, for example, women can get loans for small businesses. This is easier than Ghana. But if you are a women entrepreneur that wants to open her own startup, you'll find it difficult to find investors for startup led by women. So we have different kind of issues in Israel for women entrepreneurs. It's similar but different on a different level.
So Doc, I know you're here mainly as a lead trainer for a number of programs, mainly targeted at women. So for our viewers watching who may be interested and who want to find out how they could be part of it, how does one enroll and be part of this series of seminars and workshops that you're leading?
So first of all, we're working with 3 organizations, local organizations here, and they're actually the ones that brought the women into our training. But if you're a woman and you are part of an organization, you can always go on the website of Mashav, which is the international Agency for Development of the State of Israel. And you can see what trainings are there, and you can apply. And some of the courses are led in Israel, so you can apply and you might even find yourself in Israel in a multinational training, which is amazing.
Dr. Sala, just share with us some, things you've enjoyed having been in Ghana. What are some of the things you take home remembering Ghana for?
Well, I think the main thing that I enjoy and I'll always, take with me is the warmth of people. People are so nice to me, and so nice, really, and that's the main thing. And the women that I met were so impressive.
Have you tasted any of the delicacies so far? Have you tried fufu or kenke or banku?
I tried some.
Okay.
My problem is that I'm vegan.
So you can't have too much of that.
So I have some problems, yes.
Right. But I hope next time, in your next life, you may not be vegan and you can try our delicacies. But I'm sure in your interactions with women, have you been to the beaches any so far?
They're going to take me.
They will take you very soon.
They're going
I'm
to
sure
take
you'd
me.
enjoy it there.
Doc, let me ask you a question about leadership. As we all know, leadership is the X factor, and it is through leadership that we transform our communities, our companies, our institutions. What, in your view, defines a great leader, and how do we nurture and develop leadership skills in people?
So we're talking actually in my workshops about adaptive leadership, which is not talking about a leader, but exercising leadership in your everyday life. And if you are exercising 5% leadership in your everyday life, how can you make it 7% or 10%? So we are actually looking at what makes me see something, see a gap, and do something about it, rather than not do anything about it. So that's actually what we're doing, and that's what we are motivating the women to do, and we discover gap one after the other and see what we can do about it, and look at why we don't do things, why are we resistant to change. So we are doing this kind of work, which is it's a difficult work, but it's simple. It's something for normal people. It's not like, you have to be someone special to be a leader. It can be just a normal person who decides to do a leadership activity.
But again, what for women, when it comes to leadership, is the barrier in Ghana especially? What have you identified as some of the things that prevent them from taking up that leadership role that you talk about, or exercising leadership?
It's not just in Ghana, it's everywhere. It's the culture, it's the restrictions that are being put upon women by society, and they try to push this borders, and then they get reactions from society. We all do. So it's the same kind of thing I think in all over the world, and we need just to push the barriers and widen our repertoire of activities and whatever we do.
So Doc, in wrapping up, let me ask you a final question. I feel that this whole conversation or issue about women's inequality, a lack of representation of women in certain spheres, comes back to the issue of probably a lack of policy on gender issues, or a lack of efforts in gender mainstreaming. Being a gender expert or a women's expert, what do you think are the main issues? Is it that generally most institutions do not have specific policies that address women's issues, or maybe there is, but when it comes to gender mainstreaming and having a sustained approach to it, there is a lack of efforts in that area? What do you think is the issue?
I think it's a great point that you raise. You have the Ministry of Gender, which we don't have in Israel, which is great. But also, having said that, gender mainstreaming means that every ministry has a gender policy and has budget, and the budget is really dedicated to women's sports, women's culture, women's education, educating the whole society on gender equality in the Ministry of Education. So gender mainstreaming is, and that's what I suppose the Ministry of Gender is going to do is putting gender in all the budget and all the and we've just started to do it in Israel. It's a very, very complicated process. It's difficult. It causes a lot of resistance, but it's doable.
It is. All right. Well, it's been a pleasure having a conversation with you.
Thank you.
We wish we could have more time so that we could talk about a lot more. Thank you so much for coming into the studios. It's been an insightful conversation. So we have been speaking to Dr. Michael Sela, who, as I earlier introduced, is a resource trainer for Israel's Agency for International Development and Cooperation. And she hinted that if you're interested, if you're watching, especially if you're a woman and you're watching and you're interested in participating in any of these trainings, go onto the website for the Israel's Agency for International Development and Cooperation and see the criteria, find out more information and apply. And who knows, you might be part of that training.
Exactly.
The show continues. Please stay with us.
What is in the color of the lip? That is what we're talking about on our lifestyle segment today. Some students have gone into the habit of bleaching their lips so it looks fair. What exactly is that all about? Let's watch this.
See, it's a little pink and a little brownish. I think it's because mostly they smoke to cover up the mouth, the dark part of their mouth, yes. And secondly, to attract ladies, especially the males do it a lot more than the females.
The color of my lips, I think it matches with my skin color. So basically, I think because they are not comfortable with their natural color, their natural lip color. So I think that's why they bleach their lips.
To make it look more attractive. And also I feel they don't appreciate their lips like I do. For me, I do appreciate my lips because I feel comfortable walking around with my lips. Yeah.
Well, I think that people don't really like the color of their lips because maybe it's so black. They are not comfortable in them. The dark nature of their lips, it makes them uncomfortable. That's why some paint them, some want to bleach and all that. So I'm sure they are just not comfortable with it. That's why.
The lips is also a factor. You know, sometimes a lady's lips looks very attractive, and that will make you want to propose to her.
Really, I've heard of skin bleaching, but I think this is the first time I'm hearing of lip bleaching. Yeah.
So would you bleach your lips for anybody
Never. I'm so cool. I'm so comfortable with my lips now. I don't think I'll ever want to change how my lips look like.
Well, diverse and interesting views there, but I don't know why you would want to change the color of your lip. God has given you beautiful lip. Of course, you've got lipstick, so what else do you want?
I'm just totally shocked that people would actually use toothpaste, akpeteshi, and some chemical to try to lighten or bleach their lips just because they want to look beautiful.
Yes.
What is going on?
On the lighter side, let me just tell you, that whole concoction makes me proud that at least they are using science.
What's scientific about it?
They are being very, inquisitive, and they're mixing things, and they've gotten to know that when you mix A, B, C, D, you'll be able to change the color from black to fair. So at least kudos to them for that scientific aspect. That's the lighter side. But if you were my child, I would give you a big lash. I mean, what would you? That's all comes to the self-respect and that confidence you have in yourself to want to think that it's only when you change the color of your lips that you look beautiful in order to attract some young man who probably will come and spend a few minutes with you and leave you. What's the point?
I honestly
have we gotten this far?
I honestly don't know where all this is coming from.
But we started bleaching children even before they were born. Mothers are using all manner of creams to bleach their unborn children.
Yes, to lighten the
skin
of their babies.
Is it strange that now the young ones have learned from their mothers that you can mix things and get your lip color changed?
I think this is a very serious health issue, and I hope that, the health authorities, the Standards Board, or any other agency you know, needs to rise up and do some education in the schools, because this is really scary.
It is. And very soon, when you talk about mouth cancers, you probably will now trace back to this very thing they're practicing.
And if you
don't talk about it now,
just for the sake of
they are very smart. They seem to think they have outsmarted the effect of these concoctions they are making. So someone will tell you immediately after you have to wash your mouth. Otherwise, when it goes in, you have, you know, corrosion in the mouth. But it doesn't take away the effects you're having on your body. The fact that you've put all these corrosive materials, it seeps into the bloodstream, whether you like it or not. And when it goes into the bloodstream, then you see the full effect. You may not see it now, but many years down the line, you would have the effect of it. Probably die because of your, I don't know, for lack of a better word, stupidity.
This is just pure fashion insanity. I mean, this is something that needs to quickly be addressed. And I think that, and I hear it's quite popular in the central region, but I'm sure very soon, well, I'm hoping not, that it spreads to other regions, you know, so that we quickly nip this in the bud, educating them on the risks, you know, and how they're endangering their health in the process.
Anyway. That's what we have to say. Your views are also welcome. Of course, what we say here is not the final thing that our children are doing out there, but it behoves on parents who are closer to the children to teach and educate them and instill in them that self-confidence, so that they don't go about just doing anything on whims and caprices. Because, of course, they're teenagers. They seem to think everything at this point is fanciful, but not everything will be beneficial to them. So on that note, indeed, today has been very insightful. We've learned a lot. We've also advised people on what to do concerning changing the color of their lips. It certainly isn't the way to go. We also spoke to Mr. Solomon Kote of ICU, the General Secretary, talking about the reintroduction of property tax rates. They seem to think that that will help government get in some revenue to help with their policies that they want to roll out in this year. And we also had a woman on set.
Yes, we also spoke to Dr. Mikhail Stella and the great work she's doing in Ghana, and I hope that you're already going onto the website to try to see if you can apply for those courses. And then we also talked about the NPP. Yes, we talked about the NPP and the general issue of gender and tribal representation in our politics, which is a key issue that continues to be of concern to everybody.
Then we recapped on the Thai cave rescue and the fact that Ghanaians need to have a united and concerted effort when such, you know, disaster strikes. But before the disaster strikes, we should get our house in order so we can be able to deal with it accordingly.
Certainly.
So that was all we did on this show today.
It's really been fun. I hope you enjoyed every bit of it. Join us next week again for another exciting, informative edition. Remember, the show is brought to you by Yamvita,
a delicious way to grow.
Bye.
Captured by Women is brought to you by Yumvita, a delicious way to grow.